Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, where I come to shake my brain nipple so I can earn money to pay for your free education. Yeah, that's the way capitalism works. Anyways, I come here to scream about a lot of stupid crap so YouTube can pay me money so that I can teach people about real technology. If you go to silicondojo.com, Silicon Dojo is my project. What if technology education simply existed? We're going to be having a class in Durham, North Carolina coming up next week. It's going to be a class on basically how to build little AI systems using something called Ollama, Python, SQLite, REST APIs, all kinds of cool things. That's going to be an in-person class. So if you're in the area, you can sign up and you can show up. If you're not in the area, don't RSVP, please. But anywho, I'm getting really excited about AI for a long time now. For years, I've been crying over AI. I've been bitching over AI. I've been whining over AI because it's just been so stupid. But thankfully, it does feel like we've turned a bit of a corner, and it seems like these AI companies are now finally getting serious about architecture. And you know how much I love to talk about systems architecture, right? I'm an MCSE from 2000 era. There's nothing I love more than talking about the systems. So I think this is interesting, right? I just did a video talking about DeepSeek. They came out with a sparse something model, basically where the model goes through and it skim reads your context to only pull out the information that actually matters in order to dramatically decrease the API cost. I think that's a really interesting thing. And now basically what we're starting to see out of the vibe coding startups is that they are still starting to worry about architecture, which is a very good thing. One of the problems that I see with so much of the stuff we talk about vibe coding is basically the idea that code or coding is the most important, most invaluable thing as a technology professional. The idea that we get paid to write code, which isn't. Right, here's the thing, if you get paid to write code, and that's the long and short of it, you should be really thinking about your career because it's going to get really brutal pretty soon. The reality is as a real technology professional, your job is to sit at whiteboards, right? So if you go into a real technology company, there will be whiteboards everywhere. And the reason is because the real value in your work is designing the systems, figuring out how things should work. And then honestly, the actual coding or deploying is the low value thing, right? Figuring out, should this be local infrastructure or should this be cloud infrastructure? Should this be AWS or should this be Azure? Should we use a NoSQL or a relational database type system? You know, all of that kind of stuff. That is the valuable stuff. The writing the code isn't. And one of the problems we have in this whole AI world where CEOs want to like fire all their tech staff is they don't know what the fuck we do. Nothing says your CEO is fucking clueless about their company as when they start talking about how many employees they're gonna fire because AI is gonna take all the jobs. Oh boy, that's, God damn it. At least give us a little bit of respect. And so I think this is curious, again, with the whole vibe coding thing, because you think about like a database, right? So database is basically how you store records. So things like transactions, if you're creating an invoicing system, if you're creating a CRM solution, communication solution, or whatever, everything's stored as records, basically text. Anyways, how you store those records, there's a lot of different systems you can use to store those records in. So let's say you're going to use a relational database. So a relational database, you have tables, there's something called a schema, there's tables, tables relate to each other, that's why it's called a relational database. Anyways, it's pretty good for transactions. The idea is it's ACID, atomic, consistent. It's been a while since I've done that class. Anyways, it's acid. There's base and there's acid. You want acid. We'll do a class and all. Anyways, so let's say you as a vibe coding CEO know the fucking difference between acid and base. As far as databases are concerned, you decide you want an acid, right? Atomic, consistent, individual. Anyway, as the database. Well, the thing is, then there's a lot of different relational databases out there. And if you just look at the standard databases that are out there, there's, let's say, MySQL, let's say there's Postgres, and let's say there's SQLite. We like SQLite. Silicon Dojo likes SQLite. Great little database. No fucking security. It has like negative security. It has negative security. Like they reduce the security on SQLite to such a degree, you're like in the minus territory as far as security is concerned. Anyways, but that's the thing. And so if you look at the databases, right? So SQLite is really cool. It's a relational database, but it's a single file that's a portable single file. Like just like you have a text file, you have a SQLite database file. So you can literally copy and paste this motherfucker anywhere you want. So a hacker can copy and paste your entire SQLite database somewhere else and then just open the fucker up. Yeah, right? So anyways, so SQLite is the most used database system in the entire world, used on billions and billions of systems. If you have a smartphone, you most likely have SQLite on it. Comes pre-installed as part of the package for Python and the rest of it, and it's great, right? If you have sensors and you just need to dump sensor information into a database, it's phenomenal. If you need to use it as like a caching system, it's phenomenal. There's a lot, like fuck, SQLite, fucking phenomenal in so many ways. No security. No goddamn security though. Right? There's no privileges. There's no security. Again, it is the negative security world. So then, like that's the thing with SQLite. So it's a relational database, a lot of good things, no security. Then you get to like Postgres or you get like to MySQL, right? So Postgres and MySQL, they both have full-fledged security systems, right? So privileges, so basically privileges are user accounts. So you can have user accounts and permissions inside the database. If you simply copy and paste the database, hackers should not be able to access it very easily. Hopefully, right? So you got security there. But the interesting thing between MySQL and SQLite, I forget which is which, one is faster with selects and one is faster with inserts. What does that mean? So an insert is when you add data in the database. Select is when you pull data out. Well, depends on what you're doing, right? Let's say you have thousands and thousands and thousands of sensors spread all over the world, and you're inserting into the database. Then you want to take the database system that has the fastest inserts. On the other hand, what if you have a system where you actually don't insert data very much, but people are polling, people are doing searching. So let's say like a news feed, right? If you go to like Google, like news.google.com, right? So most of that is doing selects, it's polling. There's very little going in, right? So you want the database system that's gonna do selects fastest, right? And that is what we get paid for. You dumb fucking CEOs. You dumb fucking Can we vibe CEO? Like, I get it. Like these people out there are talking about CEOs being idiots. Look, here's the thing. If I was working at a company, I would not call my CEO a moron. That's not going to allow you to keep your job very long. The nice part about being a moron in a basement screaming at a webcam, I can scream about CEOs being morons. And anyways, right, that's the kind of stuff that we get paid for, right? The architectures, the systems, everything else. What happens if there's a failure? If there's a failure, if there's a terrorist attack, if there's a biblical flood, been through that one, right? What happens to the data? All of that kind of stuff. Right? So that's why I get interested in things like architecture, especially when we start talking about things like vibe coding, and you see the disaster in the vibe coding world, right? You had this one little vibe coder that was crying like a little fucking bitch. He was like he had been like a CEO at a major SaaS company. He even said it, right? The dipshit like literally came out and said like, I've been doing all this stuff, and he decided to create like the CRM solution. And I think he was using Replit. Anyways, he was using Replit. Oh, dumb fuck. So he was having Replit design and modify his production system. Yeah. Yep. So this guy who decided he didn't want to pay real technology professionals had Replit modify his production system. And for some reason, Replit like literally dropped the fucking database. Like, why did Replit drop the database? Who the hell knows? And that was a funny thing, right? He came out and he did this blog post and he was crying, he was bitching, he was moaning. I can't believe Replit dropped my production database. When the rest of the world was like, I can't believe a fucking CEO allowed Replit to touch their production database. But anyways, technology professionals have to be qualified at our jobs. Apparently CEOs don't. So I find this interesting to be thinking about, like, again, with this whole idea of architecture. One of the things that's come up recently, I've been going to meetups and events, and real technology professionals, real coders have been talking about using vibe coding, and Supabase came up. And apparently a lot of these vibe coding platforms like using Supabase. So basically Supabase, as I understand it, is basically a wrapped Postgres. So it's Postgres, but they wrap it in such a way that it's harder to fuck up. And so apparently a lot of the vibe coding platforms like using Supabase because it is a known system. They have a free tier, so you can just use it for free, and you're less likely to do something entirely stupid. Like that CEO we talked about before. And I think that's a big thing to be thinking about. Like, if you start thinking about how are you going to start deploying, or how are you going to start supporting vibe coding in your infrastructure? A big question is how to design your architecture for vibe coding, right? There's a lot of tech professionals right now that are crying. I have never seen technology professionals as fucking depressed as they are nowadays, right? I have been through the dot-com bust. I have been through the failure of the Great Recession. Look, I've seen people angry and pissed off and all kinds of stuff. I have never seen people so, like tech people, so whiny ass, bitchy, fucking depressed before, right? And I think the curious thing is all they see when they see AI is that their jobs are going away. And it's like, yeah. When auto attendants came for the receptionists, did you cry? When Ansible came for the systems administrator, did you give a fuck? Oh, AI is coming for your coding jobs. No, that's serious, right? Automation taking away NCSE's job, that's just the cost of going into the future. AI taking away a node developer's job? I can't believe what they're doing to us. But anyways, if you're an actual fucking technology professional, right? Good news. I have good news for you if you're actually a fucking technology professional and care about this shit, right? If you're just a whiny bitch-ass node developer and you don't even know why the fuck you get paid, you're probably gonna get screwed in AI. But what I want you to understand is AI is a stack. AI is a stack. Just like all the, might be slightly different, but basically like the other stack. And one of the things to be considering is how do you design your architecture to support a vibe coding stack, right? They talk about things with manifests, so manifests or YAML files. I need to learn the YAML. But anyways, the idea is if you're doing vibe coding, you can essentially give, right, the vibe coding platform the information about the servers to use. Right? Okay, so we have created, we have this Postgres server, and we have this the storage array of SAN or NAS or whatever else, and we have, right? And you can put all that information to a YAML file, and so you can say like, oh, okay, so the CEO is going to start vibe coding a new CRM solution. Yeah, okay, well here's the YAML file. Here's the YAML file. Yes, we will allow you to touch all the systems. We don't give a shit if they go boom about. Right? And that's the kind of thing to be thinking about with architecture. Have you been thinking about that? Have you been thinking about when will Postgres be most appropriate? When will MongoDB be most appropriate? When will SQLite be most appropriate? Do you have these manifests for when people start designing and developing their little vibe coding projects so that platform understands the infrastructure that they're dealing with, right? If you're going to start doing vibe coding, for your development, do you have a simple orientation process or just a little consultation process? So, oh, okay, CEO, you're gonna start vibe coding. Okay, spend 20 minutes with our vibe coding architect So they can understand what you're going to be trying to build. And so they know all of the architecture that's been designed for this vibe coding environment. They will give you a custom YAML file for what they expect your system actually need. Again, selects and inserts and security and all that kind of stuff. It'll be like, okay, this is the database server you should use and storage server you should use and all that kind of stuff. Here's the file. You feed that into Claude. You go off and fucking vibe code. And that's the thing, Are you a fucking bitch ass whiny piece of shit no developer that sees AI and thinks my job's gone because mwah? Or are you the person going, okay, how can I create a position in my company that is going to be the most valuable? Because again, if you become like that vibe coding architect, that orchestra, what is it? What is it, a conductor? I've heard this AI conductor. Like if you become the AI conductor of your company, that becomes very valuable. If you're the only person in your company that understands the vibe coding architecture, it becomes a lot harder to fire your ass. Well, let's see, we have a 50 node developers and we have one person who understands the architecture for vibe coding that's been deployed. Who do you think is gonna get fired? But anyways, I find this an interesting story out of TechCrunch. Again, talking about the architecture, right? So from TechCrunch, vibe coding startup Anything nabs a $100 million valuation after hitting $2 million in annual recurring revenue in its first 2 weeks. I do love in the startup world how they do that. They've hit $2 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue, and they've existed for 2 weeks. Anyways, so they've come up with basically a platform, and the idea is that they have a vibe coding system and they also offer the architecture with it. The problem with most vibe coding companies, Basu Trivaldi says, is that they don't provide all the infrastructure that non-technical users need to launch a functional project. Correct. Anything, an AI app launched a month ago, is attempting to solve this problem by offering all the tools from databases to storage and payment functionality that users need to run businesses on the web or to send their vibe coded creations to the App Store. The company's initial traction was explosive, reaching $2 million annual run rate in just 2 weeks. Oh, they are so creative with their metrics. They are artists in their metrics. Their code may be shit, but their metrics are so artistic. Anything announced on Monday that has raised an $11 million financing round at a $100 million valuation led by Footwork. Co-founded by former Google colleagues Dhruv Amin and Marcus Lowe, Anything is particularly designed to help non-technical people generate complete web and mobile applications. Quote, you haven't really seen real businesses built on top of any of these tools, Amin said about other vibe coding companies. Quote, we want to be the Shopify of the space where people build apps that make money on top of us. Amin claims that users have already leveraged Anything to build fully functional applications available in the App Store, including a habit tracker, a CPR training course, and a hairstyle try-on app. Some of these apps are even starting to make money. These users, according to Amin, can finish their app in large part because they don't have to figure out how to set up and connect other essential tools to the prototype generated by the vibe coding app. So you think about this, you may think about this as like the new generation of WordPress. Like you talk about this, and again, I get snarky, because come on now. Eli, you seem bitter. Yeah, I've been doing tech for 30 years, jackass. There's a reason. Anyways, I might get snarky about this, but you might almost think about this as a WordPress 2.0, right? We're thinking about this with WordPress, right? A lot of people have been using WordPress over the years, and they don't necessarily think about hosting. They don't necessarily think about the MySQL database. They don't think about a lot of other things. They just have WordPress. They add their plugins. It all automatically works for them. So I think this is kind of an interesting idea, kind of like what is like a WordPress in the AI space. And so what they're doing is they're building the infrastructure to go along with the vibe coding so that people can vibe code their app and then deploy it, makes my asshole pucker. Makes my asshole pucker hard. But, I mean, yeah, look, I guess it's viable. Depending on how you define viable, I guess it's a viable concept there. So it'll be curious. It'll be curious to see how that works. And I think this is what we're going to start seeing more and more out of these vibe coding platforms. My caution to anybody that's thinking about using anything or any version of this type of deal is the whole idea of portability. Like, this becomes really concerning. What happens when you have non-technical people using AI to vibe code and then using supplied infrastructure in order to provide the back-end systems? Is there any, does portability even exist at that point, right? Data portability is a huge argument that was going on for years. Finally, we won it enough where now most platforms are sort of portable with their data. I do wonder with this kind of setup is, do you lock stupid wannabe entrepreneurs into your systems? And then the few that actually become really successful, because there will be a few that blow up, will they have any way to get the fuck off your platform if they want to? Like, I think that's kind of an interesting question. Again, the idea with things like backups and replication. Can you replicate your database off system, out of their system, right? Can you do backups, that type of thing? I think that becomes a really interesting question there. So anyways, I don't know. There's some thoughts. Anything. They got to 2 million, annual run rate in 2 weeks. Oh, don't you love these startups? They are poets of stupid words. They take meaningless words and spin them into a yarn that makes you think they're impressive. I don't know. What do you think about this? $100 million valuation in 2 weeks. You're probably dealing with this a little bit more than 2 weeks. What do you think about this concept? What do you think about the concept? Again, about being the vibe coding architect in your organization or company. Is your company even thinking about that type of thing? Literally your job being the question of what is data portability? What does scaling look like, right? If you have somebody in your company that vibe codes a project, fine, right? It works fine for 5 people. 5 people works fine for. 20 people it works fine for. But I've seen companies where projects were designed for 5 people and then they deployed it to like a 10,000 person company. Again, it's just scale. What works fine for 5 people is a fucking disaster for 10,000. And be thinking about that, right? Are you the go-to person for the vibe coding architecture? So that when somebody says, look, this is what I'm going to build, be like, oh, okay. You know what? I think you might actually be more successful than you're realizing, so we want to make sure that this scales. Like, okay, so you want to vibe code this project. What is the life expectancy? Oh, we have a marketing campaign, so I just need this thing to run for 3 months so I can collect some metrics. Oh, okay. We'll give you the low tier. We'll give you the low tier resources. Like, oh, what is this? Oh, this is something that I'm building for my particular team because it's really useful. We've been having this problem for the past couple of years. I think that we can solve this problem, the whole 9 yards, so on and so forth. Like, oh, interesting. So how many of these teams are in the entire company? Oh, there's 500 of these teams spread around the entire company. How many people are in each team? Oh, 20 people. Oh. So if this works really well, right, it may have a demand of 2,000 people, not 20 people. Oh, okay. Let's build it. Let's have you build it on this architecture over here. Right? Anyways, I think that's the kind of stuff to be thinking about. And this is what you need to be thinking about if you're going to be a real technology professional. Or again, I talk about this with careers, right? There's your profession, there's your career, and there is your job, right? Your profession is what you know in entirety, right? I know everything from Arduinos to telephone systems, to digital surveillance systems, to interactive voice control, to Python, to AI, Linux, right? This is as a professional, this is all the stuff that I know. right? But then the job is a specific task you're currently doing, right? So my job right now is to scream about stupid shit and going on in the technology world, right? I come here to shake my brain nipples, to make money, to go do my other job, which is actually trying to educate you people on this stuff, right? Right? That's my job. That's a specific task, right? So currently I'm a front-end developer. Currently I'm a database administrator. Currently, right? And you go in and you just fucking do your job, right? And then there's your career. And the career is all the things you do over the 40 years of your professional life, right? Again, I did an electronic repair in the Army. Then I got my MCSE and traveled all around the country as a 24-year-old. Then I went to, another enterprise corporation. Then I became a consultant. And then I built that up to have a lot of employees. And then I became a YouTuber to teach tech education. Then I started screaming about stupid shit on YouTube. Now I'm trying to do in-person technology education, right? That's your overall career, right? Your career is much more than your job. And so what you need to be thinking about in this AI vibe coding world is look around you in your organization and ask, what opportunities are here? What opportunities is AI creating? And what are the most valuable opportunities that I can try to kind of corner? Right? Because again, in any company, they're only going to hire so many people for any one position. So if you can be the one person for a specific position and you basically become a keystone for the entire technology stack for something that's going on, that could be incredibly valuable. While all the fucking no developers are realizing what their real value is to the world, your career can still have its upward trajectory. So anyways, this is some stuff to think about. Look at anything. Be careful if you actually use them. And remember, data portability, data portability, data portability, data portability, and tech professionals get fucking paid more for more than writing code. Anyways, with that, leave your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate them, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a moron, call me an amazing moron. Just be a real Lutnick and do it down there in the comment section. Remember, Silicon Dojo exists, silicondojo.com. We are doing our AI class next week in Durham, North Carolina. If you're actually able to attend, make sure to sign up for Silicon Dojo and sign up for the class and show up, and we'll teach you about these systems and things. With that, see you later.